Welcome back to the couch that you know so well. And it's great when friends come to visit or people come to visit to our house and then they're like, oh, I know these stairs so well. I've done so many classes with you here. Nice to see the space in person.
Yes. It's not even our house though. It's an Airbnb. You can check the description and see all the Airbnbs that we stay at. And this one has been amazing. The owner is also our Spanish teacher. So that's an added perk.
And they're fantastic people too.
Yeah. Today is a special day sitting on this couch because we are going to be sharing Ailo's birth story.
Finally!
Yeah!
And he knows something is happening. We're filming another video.
He's like, something's up. Ailo came into this world on March 5th, as you probably saw in our Welcome to the Family video that we released.
So it might be a little bit longer video because we're summarizing about 4 months of a time frame. About 2 months before the birth and then the 2 months after.
Before we dive into this long vlog, I also want to mention that every single birth is unique and every single birth is powerful. We have mad respect for anyone that has given birth. We just wanted to start off by saying that we have respect for all variations of birth, all variations of however you choose to give birth. And this is just our story and what we did. Now you're hungry. I only have 10 minutes off the clock, huh? Yeah. We chose to have the baby here in beautiful Ecuador because it's just amazing here. We love it here. If you've been on our channel for a while, we've talked about Ecuador a lot. And so by choice, we had him here. And along with that came a lot of beautiful local traditions that we were able to integrate into the process of bringing him into the world. And one of those ceremonies is called a Blessingway Ceremony. It is a ceremony where you come together to celebrate the upcoming birth of the baby. So in the US, maybe in Europe too, it's called a baby shower. But here in Ecuador for a Blessingway Ceremony, it was much more than just a baby shower. Actually, we didn't even know what to expect. But we showed up for it and we had some really incredible friends that organized the whole thing for us. They had the fire all set up and we all gathered around the fire pit and
it was also at the place where we did the retreats and where we already have a strong connection to with the Ailo, and it was on purpose that it happened all there at the retreat center Bromelia here in Mangalato.
Gabby, Juanita and Mika as well planned most of it. And they had a dozen probably different pots, clay pots set up, and each of them had different items in it. Cotton, sugar, salt, Palo Santo, tobacco.
Different items that are growing here that are native to this land. And so the ceremony is traditionally like an Andean Blessingway ceremony. And since we were planning on having him in the Andes, in the mountains, it was very fitting.
And each person got up and picked out a few items, whatever they decided, and with each item that they put into one big pot, they gave a blessing for it and gave a blessing for Ailo and his life and a smooth birth, and for me for a smooth birth. Another wonderful thing that happened during the Blessingway is traditionally the partner washes the feet of the pregnant woman. So I got to have my feet washed mid-ceremony and that was amazing. If you know anything about me, I'm like a huge texture person and I really don't like stuff on my feet. So it was like just amazing little cherry on top of the cake.
Foot spa included.
Yeah.
We give each other massages anyway regularly, so it was so nice to do it again in this context of the ceremony.
It felt amazing and I felt so supported and loved and nurtured. It was amazing. After we all gave blessings, then each of us went around and sang a song. And that was also really cool because a lot of people sang songs from where they grew up and traditional like songs from when they were kids. So that was really beautiful too. So we all sang around and then we had our shaman there, Ame, and also his wife, Juanita, and they gave special blessings with the tobacco and kind of opened the way for welcoming Ailo into this existence. So after we gave all of the blessings and we sang all the songs, then we took the pot and we put the pot into the earth. We all kind of circled around the pot and Flo was instructed to smoke a tobacco, kind of closed it out and then buried up the pot.
And then we gathered around for some games, more like baby shower style games. We had some good food, some good conversation, some games. It was very nice. Also our last time seeing everyone together before we left for the mountains for the birth. And so it was a fantastic timing and very special. And so with all the blessings and all the well wishes from our friends, we then made our way to Cuenca into the mountains. It was also partly because it was just too hot at that time here. Bre had with the baby like a little oven or like a heat pack always in her, on her, and it was just very warm for her and very uncomfortable. So we purposely chose a city in the mountains with cooler climate and with different environment, different nature that we connect to a bit more than just the beach.
We also mentioned it a lot in a lot more detail in the birth plan video, but another main reason that we went to Cuenca is because we found a phenomenal midwife who's also an OBGYN, and she was just so lovely to work with. And she lived in Cuenca and she also had a birthing center there. So that was another reason and a pull for us to go to the mountains.
We really enjoyed the time there and during and after. And the climate is just nice. We could finally put our hoodie on again, get cozy, bundle up a little bit. It got pretty cold at night, which was nice. Amazing. We always sleep cold, so just leave the window open or so and get a nice sleep. And it's quiet and colder, so it was super nice.
And the Airbnb owners were also phenomenal, so loving and so giving. And they also had a 3-year-old or 4-year-old son. So they brought us up a crib and a boppy and a bouncer and a bunch of like baby supplies that we were not expecting.
And then we set everything up because then every day it could happen. It could happen that we were working or sleeping or doing yoga practice, and all of a sudden it starts. And the time was very interesting actually to wait. And especially when it got closer to the due date that they calculated. And
our midwife and doula were just incredible. They coordinated all of it. They had someone come in and do lab work and do blood tests on me to make sure that my iron levels were okay, especially since we just went up 9,000 feet in elevation. And they also had a lactation consultant come. And she gave us a whole lecture on how to breastfeed, and that was super informative. I did not know that there was that much information to even be said about it. Our doula, Naya, was just such an angel. Oh my gosh, she came and did meal prep for us, and she gave me massages and did meditations with us, and it was just really, we can't say enough good things about the birth team. We even told them for future kids, we're like, we want to fly you out wherever we are in the world for the next children. Like, we want you to be our birth team again, because it was just amazing. And that's really all that we can hope for anyone that's going through the process of giving birth is not only the way that you decide to give birth. Honestly, that is almost irrelevant to you having a positive or negative birth experience. It's about if you felt empowered and if you felt supported and if you felt heard. And these are what we really experienced in the whole process. So yeah, we just felt so taken care of. We
were all kind of prepared and ready, but the real boss, the real chef was of course Ailo. He was dictating everything and he was deciding. We were joking, but also half serious, saying, okay, Ailo, maybe we can do our morning practice, and then we have some coffee and maybe some breakfast, and then you decide to come, and then it all starts, and then you're done by before sunset, so that we can all chill out together, and then
I can have dinner.
And we can have dinner together, and then we can all go sleep together. So we're not like up for 3 days and 3 nights. As it can happen.
Yeah. So that started out as a joke. Turns out that's exactly what happened. It was amazing. So I actually did not go into labor until 5 days after he was due. So as Flo said, that whole stage for a couple of weeks where we were just waiting and waiting and waiting. It's an interesting time, but we made the best of it, and we really, also enjoyed that experience. And I enjoyed being 40 and 41 weeks pregnant. All the way up until the end, I was still feeling really good.
I'm still practicing. So this is not an invitation to start a yoga practice if you don't already have one while you're pregnant. But since she's been doing this for a long time, it was great to see her practice and how she modified. We even have some time lapses here on the channel and on Instagram of her practices.
And I will kind of back up to what he said. if you are not practicing yoga and you're pregnant and you want to start moving, yoga is actually an amazing and perfect form of movement and mindfulness that you can take on for your pregnancy. Honestly, I think the number one thing that helped me during labor and during birth was meditation. Just being able to get out of my head and get into my heart was super helpful, because I think I would have had a freaking meltdown and not let my mind race about all the terrible things that could have happened that didn't.
Because it's very easy, so to say, to stay present and focused and positive when everything is going smooth. But the real practice shows in situations in life that are very intense, and birth being one of them. It really shows where your practice is at and what you're doing and how you respond to this intensity and this energy and everything that's happening. Somehow this yoga stuff seems to work. I don't know.
It's that time for you to journey home to yourself and remain present in your life. And really, it was the best tool that I had during the entire birth. Speaking of, to the birth. Around midnight, the day that Ailo was born, I started getting pretty bad back pain and laying in bed and rolling from one side to the other and one side to the other and just constantly moving. And I thought maybe it was contractions because I was having like pretty bad back pain. And so I got out this app and I started timing contractions, but they were incredibly sporadic, like 15 minutes and then 3 minutes and then 1 minute and then 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, this probably is not contractions. I don't know what this is. But I started to discover that the trigger of feeling this like sensation of back pain happened whenever I made the adjustments. So if I moved my leg or if I adjusted my pillow or something, then I would have like a sort of a sharp, severe back pain.
I have not seen her like this. It was very hard to see too. And there's not much I could help besides like holding her or lean into me or sit down or something, because every movement was painful and no situation that she was in, no position that she was in was comfortable. We tried
not
everything
possible.
and no position was comfortable. It was such extreme pain. It was very hard to see, especially because it went on for so long.
Then around like 11 or so, Flo decided to thank you for doing that, decided to text the midwife and just tell her like, hey, this is kind of seems
intense.
A little intense.
Please come.
Maybe abnormal, not quite sure, but Bre is having a really difficult time. She's in a lot of pain right now. And so maybe you should come over and check just make sure things are okay. And then Elbia, the midwife, wrote back and she said, okay, well, maybe the baby's in a weird position or something else. We might have to go to the hospital and get an ultrasound and just see if the baby is in a good position. So she said, I'll come over in an hour and we'll check things out. And so at 11:55, 5 minutes before she walked in the door, my water broke. And then I was like, oh, okay, I think labor's starting now. Like, okay, now maybe my back pain goes away and I can start to feel contractions. This is just what's going on in my head, the commentary, like, okay, labor is starting now. So 5 minutes later, Elbia walks in the door and I'm like crying in pain, just laying there on the mattress. And so since my water had just broke, then she did a pelvic exam and found that I was already 10 centimeters dilated, which completely blew us away. We were both like, what? Like we looked at each other like, no way. I mean, at least for me, I was completely floored. I had no idea that it was already starting because I didn't feel any contractions. Nothing was happening in my abdomen or core or center at all.
It was not how we imagined it or how she imagined it and how it was kind of described or explained. But it was still contractions, it was still surges, as we like to say, and it is just a different kind, which is more rare. But then she was basically, okay, she's 10 centimeters, now the baby is coming and we should get everything ready now. And as we explained in the previous video, our plan was to do a water birth. So Elbia, the midwife, brought a pool with her. So for like an hour, we just left Bre there. Okay, you just chill. Here's some water, drink some. Elbia and I were just setting the space up. We were filling up the pool in our living room and getting everything set up for Bre to be ready. And basically, once everything was set up, she also said, let's go into the water now because baby is coming now. So it was perfect time that she came to kind of check on us and check on Bre, how she's doing. And it was actually then birth time.
Yeah.
And so this was about 12 when the water broke, and roughly 4 hours later, he was then born. So it was short time of active labor, I think it's called, and a lot of preparation time before with this very intense but also weird back pain. It's called back labor. It can happen especially if you have a short torso and the anterior pelvis tilt, which Bre has. Then it's
and
more,
if you have a long baby, which we had,
then it's more likely that you experience back labor.
And so there's 4 things, 4 out of the 5. Another symptom of it is if your placenta is placed in the front of your uterus, and mine was. So the way that he was positioned was a little bit different. During those 4 hours, everything was a bit of a blur for me. I felt like time slowed down and sped up. I was in this weird warp and this trance and focusing so much on my breath and kind of finding this feeling of sincere stillness within, but looking around and seeing kind of chaos going on. Of course, you guys were like organized and doing what you needed to do, but to me, visually, it was like pool and hose and water and blowing up and the oxygen tank and all the supplies and carry this up and put this down. And so looking out, I just remember being like, okay, just focus on your breath. Everything will be okay. And I kind of had this moment where I got pretty scared because I was thinking, if I really do have to go to the hospital, if I have to get an ultrasound, I can't even walk down the stairs to get into a taxi to go to the hospital. I would literally need an ambulance and a stretcher and to be carried downstairs. Like, oh my God. So then my mind was going into some negative places that were pretty scary for me. And I was like, shit, am I over my head right now? Like, this is not the situation that I wanted to be in. And so I kind of started to freak out a little bit. And then right around that time where I was like, okay, just breathe. Like, my body knows what to do. My body knows how to give birth. I need to keep reminding myself of these things and stay in this positive mindset and analyze my pain a little bit differently. Instead of me feeling like so much pain, feeling the pain, it was more me being like, okay, well, my body is going through this, and how do I want to experience this in my brain? Like, can I actually shift this away from being in so much pain to actually, not, I wouldn't say pleasure, but just to be neutral, to just observe what's going on in my body from a very observing perspective, like being a witness to what's going on instead of getting so attached to all of it. Because I think if I would have stayed attached to the pain and attached to these scary thoughts, I would have been going down a very slippery slope and not had a positive birth. But despite all of that, it was still a very positive birth. As soon as I got in the water, then we could already feel his head. And yeah, it took, I don't know how many pushes. I was again in sort of a trance, and every time there was a surge, I really only felt it in my low back, a very small spot around my sacrum. And it just felt like I was actually being electrocuted almost in my low back. Like, I felt nothing in my belly, nothing in my abdomen. So the whole birth was very unique and very different than what I had in my head. And Flo was just so amazing the whole birth. Like, every time that a surge would come, I would just look up and open my eyes and he would be right there, like eyes locked in, just giving me support and really even just showing me with his eyes, like, I believe in you and you can do this. And it was just so amazing having him there. And I felt so, empowered and so loved and so supported. He just knew between every break of every surge, he grabbed the little fan and he put that on me, and then he grabbed ice packs and put them on my back, and then he gave me coconut water. And like, between every surge, I basically had this like little surprise treat coming.
You were prepared. From
him. Yes, and it was amazing. And he had all these beautiful like positive affirmations that he was giving me. And they were just so, so helpful, like reminding me that I can do this, and that thousands of women in my lineage alone have done this for so many years. And just feeling that encouragement and that love from him, and also thinking back of my mom, who also had a home birth with me, and yeah, my grandma giving birth to my mom and great grandma to my grandma, and having this sort of transcendental experience of recognizing all of the strength and courage and bravery that all the women in my line have had, to be able to give birth and be able to have me here giving birth and passing this on to the baby. So it was a very powerful experience for me, and yeah, just like all the emotions all together, like so much love and so much pain and so much excitement and a little bit of being scared, and like everything all combined in this beautiful chaos. But also it's just so calm. I would have a surge, and then afterwards it would be, you know, a minute in between. And it was so chill. We had like really nice music playing, and the midwife was there and the doula was there, and everything was like super tranquil and calm. And then a surge would come, and
he's like, baby, it's starting again, come here. And I was like, I was just getting some water or so, and then walking away. And he's like,
I'm like, no!
He's like, Flo, it's coming, it's starting again.
And then as soon as I would grab his hand, I would just like lock in so tight, and probably squeezing your hand until it was purple.
Well, I'm used to it. When we get tattoos, she does the same.
It was just so wonderful to have Flo there, and gave me so much gratitude for his support and for the support of my birth team. You know, I took all of these hypnobirthing classes, and I've done a ton of, like, hundreds of meditations in the way to learn about breathing the baby out, like breathing the baby down and relaxing and letting the uterus open. And the more that you get scared or have fear or breathe quickly or things like this, then it can also trigger different endorphins that you actually don't want. Your fear response and your cortisol levels go up, and it actually doesn't allow the uterus to have contractions as it normally would. I was like, okay, just focus on breathing the baby down. So I'm visualizing this whole, you know, mindful, chill, calm, like breathing birth experience. No, it was not breathing the baby out. And I had all sorts of these sounds coming out of me that I never even knew existed. They came from the depths of my soul. It was just like, just full on screaming.
It was intense 4 hours, but it was not as uncontrolled as you might think. Screaming everywhere and stuff, like, because we already get enough of this stuff and this kind of message in the movies. That form your mind in a certain way about the birth. So it was not like this. It was still controlled, still chill, but of course it was intense for Bre, but everything else around it was very grounding, very supportive.
Yeah.
So that she could go through her process. And what she said with the ancestors and the female lineage behind her, she tapped into some serious wisdom there, the female wisdom of giving birth, because it's what the body is perfectly designed to do. And so she channeled all of this in so that the birth was successful and smooth and good. Although the experience while she was in it was, of course, intense. There's no denying about it.
Yeah.
But since it was the back labor, it was a bit more intense than planned. But everything else worked out exactly how we wanted it. And Bre did such an amazing job with the birth. It's very interesting also for me, for the partner, to be in there, because the process starts. She's pregnant, then already the process continues of the baby growing. But then once it's time to give birth, the water breaks, and then you start this process of birth now, and you cannot stop it. So you really have to surrender to it. There's no other way. And so by staying present, as in all the challenging situations in life, it will help you make it through it. Her pelvis and hips and the whole body is perfectly designed for this baby to be born. And so to remind yourself of these facts, it really helps. And being there for the support during his birth was amazing. It was a fantastic experience to support Bre as much as I could. And it's also at times intense. I'm like, wow, what is happening? It's really happening.
There's no going back. Meditation and mindfulness are not necessarily there to help you avoid visiting places of darkness. It's not to keep everything in the light and only focus on the light and only focus on the positive. It's actually giving you the tools to understand how you can be in the darkness and be okay with it, and to work through it. Yeah, exactly. It's not to avoid it. It's to understand how to work through it when you're in it. So I really cannot emphasize enough how valuable meditation was for the entire experience, because it was just so intense. He just wasn't coming out. After 4 or 5 big surges, he was still not coming out. And so finally the midwife told me, she kind of came up at the edge of the pool and was like, okay, we've been trying for a while. Basically, you need to get this baby out on the next push. And she said, you have to channel all of the life force energy, everything that you have in the universe, and you have to really pull that into yourself and visualize it coming down through your whole body. Like, you need to give it your all. This is the push. This is the one. Because the baby is getting stressed, and this is the time. The time is now. And I'm like, I hadn't slept, I hadn't eaten. I was in, of course, all the pain and everything else. And I thought that on the last 5 pushes, that was already my hardest push. I was like, I can't give more. Like, this is all I got. I can't give another push. But as soon as she said, like, channel all the energy from life force and just let it move through you.
It's kind of like
exactly what I needed to hear. Then I did. The surge came and I gave it everything I had. And it was, again, crazy sounds coming out of my mouth, screaming so loud. My vocal cords were actually a little bit sore afterwards. Like, my voice didn't even sound the same after birth, after the first couple days after birth, because I was like just screaming from the depths of my soul, and I just had to let sound out in order to help my pelvis open also. So anyways, with that last push, he finally came out, the head came out, and then the whole birth team or the midwife said, like, stop, don't push actually now, because the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck twice. And so they took the cord off of his neck, which is probably one of the reasons that he was kind of going in and out so many times, is because the cord was kind of pulling him back in. So once they removed the cord, then the rest of him slipped out super easy. Everything was fine. I didn't even notice. Once his head was out, everything else came out, and it was very easy. So then he was out, and I was looking at Flo over the edge of the pool, and we heard one cough, and then it was silent.
Also, I saw, because Bre was facing towards the edge of the pool and I was in front of her, I could see over her shoulder down into the pool. Mm-hmm. So I saw how he came out into the water, and he was just underwater, and he was like looking around.
Did your heart stop?
How
was that?
First I just saw baby is there and eyes are open, and he was like looking around. And then I was like fully present to witness it. But then I was like, oh wow, that's my son, that's my baby. He's there now. And then it gets like a dream almost. Mm-hmm. So the feeling when something intense happens, and then you're wondering if this is now real, or if it's like, no, is this real? Am I asleep? Is this really happening? So it was like, oh wow, this is really happening. I'm sitting there and Bre and then the baby. So it was very beautiful moment to see him for the first time, but also kind of overwhelming a little bit. Yeah. And then he was underwater, super chill. They lifted him, or he came, I don't know, to the surface. He was doing a little cough. They lifted him up to do a little cough to get the water out of his lungs. And then he took his first breath. So nice to witness. Yeah. The first breath, and then he did a little coughing, and maybe I don't think even a cry, but just some cough, and got the water out, and then he was calm again.
And then he was silent.
Yeah, and then he was chill again.
And then it was a little scary for me, because I still hadn't seen him yet. And that's actually the first time I heard that you saw his first breath. Yeah. That's so sweet. Yeah. Oh, that must have been so special. So I had not seen him yet, and so then it was silent, and I started to get a little bit worried. I mean, it was probably only like 10 seconds, but to me it felt like a lifetime, because I was in this weird time warp where everything was super slow and super fast at the same time. And so then I asked him, like, is he okay? Is everything okay? And they're like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's just looking around. I'm like, what? So then I, turn around, and they pass him through and put him in my arms, and I was just completely overwhelmed. Like, what the hell? Like, I have a, like, how is this even possible? Like, it didn't, I couldn't even like really process it. It was such an overwhelming feeling having my own baby like put into my arms, just phenomenal. And as soon as he was in my arms, my back pain completely went away. No more pain. Kind of forgot how everything just happened the last 4 hours and was just overwhelmed with love. Like, I was just crying and couldn't believe it. It's like my heart was exploding with love. It was just amazing. And the whole time he's just looking around like super calm, kind of like he is now.
Yeah.
And just looking around. So we got out of the pool and sat down on that mattress, which we had planned to do all of the labor positions in, and we didn't use it at all. But we used it afterwards. So sat down on the mattress and then held him, and of course, skin to skin, and he started feeding right away. So that was amazing. Like 10 minutes after he was born, he was already latched on and eaten away. Good, easy appetite, just like Papa. And then maybe 20 minutes later, the placenta came out, and that was also very smooth and easy. And yeah, that was great. So I'm still holding him, barely wiped down, and he still had his placenta attached. And we decided to keep the placenta attached for 5 hours. And which is, if you're not familiar or aware, it's actually really important to keep the placenta attached for longer than 15 minutes, or 15 minutes should really be the minimum amount of time that you cut the cord.
But the longer the better.
The longer the better, yeah. But after about 5 hours, then the benefits also plateau out, because at that point the baby has all of the blood from the placenta, and they have all of the stem cells that they're able to get into their bloodstream. Yeah, do you want to go to Papa? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. You're just staring at him the whole time, huh? Yeah.
Hallo, mein Schatz.
Go hang out with the pops.
Hallo, mein Schatz. Wie geht's dir?
Those 5 hours were also amazing. Just that time to be with him and be with the birth team. And we had really chill music playing and incense burning and candles. And it's only maybe 5 or 6 p.m. And so we had a ton of food, and Naya also meal prepped a bunch of stuff for us. So she put out a huge spread with a big dinner. And so we had the midwife and doula and nurse, and Flo and I all had some delicious dinner, and just holding on to this newborn baby just in awe, like complete utter shock that this happened, and that he's here, and that he's breathing, and that all systems are working. It's like just unreal.
As she's explaining, he's filling up the diaper.
Oh, nice. All systems working.
Weiter so.
All right, anyways, 6 hours is how long the midwife was gonna stay there. So at hour 5, we decided to cut the placenta, and for our situation, we decided to do a cord burning ceremony. Flo is gonna go take Ailo because he's sleepy and ready for his nap. So I'll try to finish here without a crying baby. So we had the cord burning ceremony, and that was awesome. Of course, it's clamped on both sides of the cord, and then we both put a candle underneath, and that basically severs the cord. And he didn't feel anything. He's not in pain. He actually slept through the whole thing. Traditionally, there's also a lot that goes on with the placenta, and the placenta is actually can be considered and known as the tree of life, and it is really that connection between you and your baby, and it exchanges all the blood and filters out toxins and brings in nutrients and pulls out waste, and it is just an incredible organ, actually, the more that I learned about it and read about it. So we wanted to also pay a lot of respect to the placenta itself, giving our respect and our appreciation for this organ that I just grew and has given life to our baby while it was growing in the belly. Then we also had a woman come who is also a doula, a local doula in Cuenca, and she did a lot more with the placenta. She ended up putting it into capsules. So I had like 200 dehydrated pills of the placenta, and she also made a diaper rash cream out of it with different butters and natural nut butters and stuff, and then also some of the placenta. And then she also wrapped up the cord nicely and dried the cord, and then she did a giant print and a piece of art with the placenta and the cord. She also did soap for the baby and also a little elixir, which lasts for 40 years. So when Ailo gets sick in his life, or if he's going through, injuries or has whatever, basically you can put 3 drops of this elixir into a glass of water and he would drink that, and it's basically all of his stem cells and natural goodness that he had from the placenta. So he'll have that until he's 40 years old, which like blew my mind. Also on the 5th day, she came and she did, same woman that did the placenta encapsulation, she also did a ceremony that's called closing the hips. They do one of these ceremonies on day 5 postpartum and then another one on day 40. It's basically a ceremony where I got a massage and she did cupping with fire, and then she did some Reiki and energy healing, and then we did a bath, and she brought this huge bouquet of like all of these plants, like literally this big, from the market, and she just shoved them into a huge pot and had that boiling for a couple of hours while she did the massage and the cupping. And then when the plants were all ready, then we went into the shower, and she basically took this pot of all these plants and herbs and flowers, lavender and chamomile and basil, and it smelled amazing. And she just like basically gave me like a plant bath and just like poured this huge pot of this warm plants and Mother Earth just like over me. And it was such an amazing feeling. I felt so grounded and so connected to nature, and felt like I could release a little bit of the birth and just have some like closure with the whole experience. And then the last part of the ceremony is you lay on your back, and they have this stretchy fabric, and then they wrap it up, kind of like weaving you into a really tight wrap around your belly. So it's called belly wrapping. A lot of other traditions also do it. So I just laid there and fed and cuddled with Ailo and just had a really beautiful like closing meditation for myself about sealing everything with the birth and letting go of a lot of the trauma that I had experienced from it, because the birth just happened so fast. Like I was not expecting it to take 4 hours, especially for my first birth. I thought it would be, in my head I was like, okay, it's going to be between like 15 and 30 hours. Like I just have to be okay with knowing that I'm going to be in labor for 30 hours. It just happened so quick that it didn't give me time during the labor and during the birth to like process so much of like what was happening. It was just, I was just in a trance and the baby was coming. So the closing of the hip ceremony was so nice for me to like release and like drop into myself and come back into my body, and also have this moment where I can really accept that it's my body again and I'm not sharing it physically besides breastfeeding, but I'm no longer have a baby in my womb. And that also can take quite a bit of time to process as well, that you carried this baby for 9 months and now it's outside of your womb. So we came back to the coast, and then we actually had a piece of the placenta with us, and we were instructed from Emma and Juanita to actually placing the placenta into that pot with all of the blessings from everyone that was at the ceremony. And then also we said our own prayers and blessings and kind of closed it off. And that was kind of the end of the birth experience for me and for us. A big thank you to everyone who sent us so much love before the birth, during the birth, and after the birth. We are completely overwhelmed with the amount of love and support that we received, especially for giving birth in a foreign country. It's just amazing for us.
Many of you ask, many of you are curious, so you know how our experience was. And if you are planning to have kids, or if you're pregnant now, we wish you all the best for the birth and a smooth birth and a good experience. We have more resources in the description below. You can just click there and check out all the information that we have mentioned, also of our doula, our midwife, and other things that you can check out there. So thanks so much for watching this long video, being with us for so long, and we see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Much love. Peace.
Masapanya. Bada bichi baba.